Okay, good morning, Camilla. And today we're talking about repair cafes. And I would like you to perhaps walk us through talking about the need for repair cafes in Guernsey and what's, from your point of view, what you think is at stake there.
Sure. Hi, Guilhem. So the Repair Cafe does a few key things, really. So we provide practical help to people to repair an item. So the idea is that anybody can come along to a repair cafe, bring something that needs repair and get help from a skilled volunteer to carry out that repair, as well as obviously a space to do it, which is really helpful. Not all of us have somewhere that we can do repair in our own house, as well as tools and equipment to use, parts maybe that will actually be needed to do a repair. The cafe also gives people the chance to learn something new. So as well as giving volunteers the opportunity to teach a new skill, both of which are really beneficial for mental health and well-being. And really our presence and our social media activity and the promotion of what we do really helps to promote a mending mindset and get people thinking about repairing their items first, rather than just automatically going out and buying a replacement item. And I think we all need to get back into the habit of fixing, and it really is getting back to the habit of fixing. I think it's something that we've really lost over the years. So I think there is a need for repair cafes in Guernsey. There's a lot of benefits to repairing things. Not only are you getting to reuse an item, saving money, it feels great to fix something. It's a great opportunity to connect with people on the island. And I think it's even more critical at the moment as we're within our second lockdown, to give people the ability to be a bit more self-sufficient. You know, we can't just pop out and buy something new. We can't necessarily even go out and get tools and repair equipment. If we can do that ourselves and have the confidence to do that ourselves, then that's a win.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Indeed. And so, can you tell us a little bit about your plans or what's being done at the moment by the Clean Earth Trust and yourself?
Sure. So before lockdown, we've been running regular repair cafes to look at clothing and textiles from the Health Connections Pre-Loved and Reloved shop on Smith Street. So Health Connections have very kindly given us space there, and we have a seamstress who sits there on Tuesdays and Saturdays for a couple of hours and helps people fix, alter, upcycle any clothing or fabrics and cushions, anything like that. So that's our regular repair cafe. We also have ad hoc cafes which we've been running at various locations. So the last one we did was at the library in January before lockdown kicked in, and there we had a larger cafe, so with more volunteers, and we were able to repair a broader range of items, not just textiles. So we had volunteers who were able to help fix electrical items as well as household goods. And the idea once lockdown lifts is that we really focus on getting somewhere a bit more permanent for the repair cafe to operate from, and be able to service more different types of items, as well as have basically kind of more opening hours and more opportunities for people to come along and fix their things. So we ran a small survey before lockdown asking people a few things about the repair cafe. Would they use a repair cafe? And even though it was a small number of respondents, we had about 55, over 75% said that they would use a repair cafe. And the two most common items that people wanted to bring were textiles and clothing and electrical items. So we're really focusing on trying to get cafes up and running more regularly so people can bring along their items whenever they break and get those fixed really easily. And it's a two-pronged kind of approach for us, really. We need to both find a permanent place where we can set up, as well as finding volunteer fixers who are skilled, who can come along and devote a little bit of their time to help people. So we're really trying to grow that volunteer base, as well as find some good locations that we can work from, or ideally a single location. Yeah. During lockdown, we've also set up a Facebook group. We've got about 200 members in that now, where people can post questions about repairs. We've got some of our repair cafe volunteers sitting in there ready to talk about sort of textiles and clothing. And some of our members of community have very kindly been responding to other questions that have come up that we don't have, specific volunteers to answer. But everybody's hopefully got a bit of skill and experience in fixing something, so they can contribute that way. And hopefully I can see that community group really growing alongside our physical repair cafes as well, maybe as a really good straightforward first kind of place to ask a question. And then if somebody can't get the help online, they can come along to one of our repair cafes and actually get some physical help there themselves.
I suppose it's all about the community, isn't it? About having a place to go, people to ask, and then also, as you highlighted, going out of that paradigm, or just put it in the bin. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you see the importance of that in tackling, like climate change and trying to promote the circular economy?
It's one piece of the one piece of the puzzle. Let me just say that again, so you can so the repair cafe is one piece of the puzzle of the circular economy, and it's really important. We throw away so much stuff that could be reused, and it's not only problematic in terms of the resources that we use to create things and the energy that's used and the carbon emissions that are generated from producing things, and then those things have to be transported somewhere. But we've also got a problem when we dispose of goods that we don't need anymore. Especially when we're talking about electrical goods, they contain a lot of hazardous materials, arsenic, cadmium, lead, mercury, all of these things need to be disposed of carefully. And there are very different standards of how they are disposed of, whether they go into landfill or recycling. But we're also not recycling a lot of these resources as well. So we're creating something, we're using it for a year, we're throwing it away, it's getting stuffed into landfill, it's leaking out and damaging the environment, and then we're doing it all over again. It's obvious this is just not sustainable.
Or gets shipped to a developing country for people to strip it and do stuff
yes
with it.
Exactly. So you've got children probably burning plastics and inhaling the fumes of that. It's when we could sit down and actually look at the entire sort of system of our consumerism and what we produce, then moving towards a circular economy is where we've got to be. And there, I suppose my vision for the repair cafe and for other organisations across Guernsey is that we can, as a whole, move in that direction. But it's other things as well that need to happen. So, sharing goods instead of owning them, for example, will be a critical part of reducing the amount of stuff that we waste. Sorry, lost my train of thought there.
Yes.
So and there are lots of organisations across Guernsey that are tackling the linear economy and want to move us more towards a circular economy. So I think it's critical that we all collaborate on this.
Yeah, and I suppose also when you are the owner of a good that needs to get fixed, then I'm thinking about electrical appliances or things with moving parts. As the user, you're probably the one that's most able to know how to diagnostic and see what the thing that doesn't do anymore, why is it broken. So I suppose that's an interesting part. And do you see is it difficult to find the manpower to find people with good local know-how how to fix little electric appliances, for example? Or
I kind of did a bit of a survey of well, let's talk about what happens if if your toaster breaks or if your kettle breaks at the moment. It's actually very difficult to find a professional business that will repair any kind of model or device for you. So certainly some of the retailers will fix some certain brands of goods that they have sold to you, but it's certainly not kind of across the board a service that you can find easily. And it's really these low cost electrical items that are the problem. That is one of the things that the repair cafe sort of fills a gap in the market for. And I think it's really interesting when you look at the data of the sorts of electronic waste that's thrown away. There's a really large proportion of that, so one of the largest categories. So if we look at global e-waste in 2020, for example, the largest segment is about 27% of e-waste was small equipment like irons and kettles and toasters, and they're just really difficult to get fixed. And yes, I'm I've got a few volunteers who are able to look at electronic waste, but I think because it's inherently more dangerous to be fixing an electrical item, I think people are probably a lot more reticent to try and tackle that kind of repair themselves.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that there are plenty of people in the community in Guernsey who'd be more than happy to offer their skills up to the cafe to help people learn how to fix these things themselves, or even just have a go at a repair in a safe way. If we can teach people the kind of mindset and some of the skills, then they don't necessarily need to know exactly how to fix X item. They can just apply the skills that they could learn at the repair cafe to anything that they've got.
Yeah, so for me, coming from an education background, do you believe that there is a gap maybe in the market? So should there be some courses like the College of Further Education, for example?
I would love to see that, and I know that that there are excuse me, I mean there are some courses that teach some practical skills like this, but I think there's loads more that we could be doing. There's a really great project in the UK called the Restart Project, which is like a repair cafe, but it's completely focused on electrical goods. And actually they've pulled together a lot of resources for teachers to talk to children and teach young adults about repairing. And I think, I'm not an educationist at all, but I think, looking at something like that to teach them practical skills for repairing goods would be a great idea. We've got to learn to be a bit more self-sufficient. And it's really fun as well. It's really rewarding sitting down. It's fascinating. I peer over the shoulder of one of our electronics repair cafe volunteers, watching him take the back of a radio and test all the different parts of the circuitry to see where the current isn't getting through, and it's fascinating. I think everybody should have the opportunity to have a go and learn more about
I suppose also it teaches you how things work, and then it perks your interest rather than just looking at the thing and just put it in the bin. That's an important element, I think, as well. Do you so I guess suppose that the biggest barrier to this is planned obsolescence. So how do you feel that is prevalent in Guernsey, and what ways do you see it happening, or how could we prevent it further in perhaps the long-term future, you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is the massive challenge here. We can try and repair things as much as we like, but manufacturers are really canny, and if they don't want your product to be repaired and to have a lifespan longer than a couple of years, it's quite difficult to get around that. So I think it has to be legislation by governments around the world to stop companies building in planned obsolescence. I mean, and this is a problem as old as the hills. This has always been something that manufacturers have been doing, but I think if we look at the amount of waste that we're producing and the problems that we face now for the environment, it's governments have to get on top of this and legislate. I mean, there's definitely some manufacturers who are taking steps themselves and who are doing the right thing and make their products repairable, even if it's just you have to send the product back to them for repair. That's better than not. What I'd like to see is products being repairable by anybody, and it's things that as well as kind of getting rid of planned obsolescence, you have to make products more repairable. So provision of service manuals to help people find out how to repair, provision of parts, building things in a way such that you can actually get into them without destroying parts by undoing or ripping glue or things like that. There's all these, and actually making it clear to the user when they're buying something how repairable something is as well, so that consumers have I think Green Guernsey posted something about the repairability legislation coming in France about putting labels on products, you know, it's a really good start, because people can start thinking not just how much is this going to cost me now, but actually if I pay that little bit more, but I get a product that I can now use for the next 20 years because I can replace it, that actually makes more financial sense for me, for
Yeah,
example.
that's it. Yeah, and I think there's lots of initiatives, particularly in Holland, and I know there's one in Paris where you can literally go to a shop that only sells repaired items, and it's like acres and acres of fridges and washing machines, and there's some very nice documentaries about it. But I guess that I think for Guernsey, there's always been. I was quite impressed when I arrived in 2010 about the ECycle project, and I thought that was really inspiring. But I think in the last 10 years, we haven't evolved or much in the right direction. I think it's maybe we've been a bit complacent. Is that some thoughts that you share as well?
On which project, sorry?
The ECycle is where you could just put your items that you didn't want to have anymore, and then people could come and collect them. And
oh, the Facebook group. Yeah, I mean, I've used ECycle groups. I mean, I moved here in 2016 from the UK, and you know, just finding having groups where you can get and you know give away your items is great. I've always thought it was a great initiative. I think people struggle with groups like that, and I've certainly found it both here and in the UK. So it's nothing Guernsey related at all. It can be challenging sometimes for organising pickups and deliveries, and people don't turn up, and it's all a bit unreliable, and that can really put people off. I think, and that speaks to one of the main challenges we have with repairing and sourcing things that aren't new, is that it's so easy now and so cheap, relatively, to buy something new compared to trying to repair or you know, source something from within the community that somebody doesn't want anymore. You know, everybody can just pick up their phones and you know, you can buy a new toaster for £10 on Amazon and it can be with you in a couple of days. You know,
yeah, that's it.
That's the kind of thing that, you know, that's what we're up against when we're trying to get, you know, people to, and you know, realistically, not everybody cares about you know, or has the time and energy and ability to source all their products, make sure they're repairable, and do everything that we'd want them to do. We've got to make it super easy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So in terms of well, I suppose it would be interesting to have in Guernsey maybe some schemes that would allow people to collect things and promote it, and maybe a state-run service. But it's always a stretch, isn't it, with budgets?
Yeah,
And,
I mean,
is there anything in particular that you'd like to see done in the next year or so, or you think you could achieve as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I say, my sort of vision for the repair cafe is to really have almost like a single place where people can go for their first kind of port of call if they've got something and they've got no idea if it's repairable, how to repair it, where to go to get it repaired. And it doesn't have to be, you know, I think this is again where it comes into collaboration, because you know our goal is to get people repairing stuff. It doesn't have to be something that comes through the repair cafe. I think one of our aims is to get people, you know, really promote a mending mindset in repairing. And this could mean going to your local tradesman that can repair, you know, an item for you instead of coming to the repair cafe and doing it yourself. It's really just about getting everybody thinking, how can I fix this? I don't have to buy something new. How can I use what I've got instead of just automatically buying something new? So I'd really like to see that sort of focused hub of information, of skills, of tools, of parts, working with other organisations that are doing similar things. So for example, you know, Giving Opportunities Go, they work with the states and they take things at the long hook that they can then upcycle and resell. That's a really great collaboration there. You know, I'd love to, it's a bit tricky thinking about how we could, you know, use that model for, you know, electrical items, for example, because, you know, if you're picking out a chest of drawers and long hook or something, you could visually see whether or not it's you know, how easy to repair it is. With electrical items, it's a bit harder because a visual inspection, you know, in 10 seconds might not tell you whether that's repairable. So I think there's lots of options for collaboration to try and kind of stem the flow of stuff that gets thrown away that could get repaired, and then get that sort of back into the economy.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's not easy, isn't it? It's having those systems in place that allow those things to happen. Okay, well, that kind of concludes our little interaction there. So it's been nice speaking to you.
Thank you.
Have you got anything you'd like to add before we conclude fully?
Just to say, come, if you're interested in repairing or getting involved, then just come and visit our Facebook page, or get in touch by emailing us at repaircafe@cleanearthtrust.org. We're always on the lookout for volunteers that can help mend anything, not just clothing and repair and electrical items, but jewelry, china, anything. We're really happy to hear from you. Or just get in touch if you want to know more. We'll be looking at getting our repair cafes up and running again once we move most likely into phase 3 of lockdown.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, thank you for your time, and thank you for the initiative as well.
Lovely. Thanks, Guilhem.